So we are gonna go over our assemblies today, and I figured I'd make a video just so you guys can work at your own pace. So I have my 5 pieces. Yours should be different, but I have my 5. And I kind of renamed them to be the color. And so we are going to do this as a warm-up, but just in case you kind of had trouble with this or you need to review it one more time, is I have this chart here for us, which is showing the number of cubes and then the approximate mass, the number of cubes, and the volume. Okay, if yours is off by more than just a tiny bit, you probably did something wrong. The biggest thing that you probably did wrong was you may have accidentally, when you extruded, if you double click extrude 1, you may have left this as 1. It defaults to 1, and sometimes we just hit the check mark, but you need to change that number 1 to a 0.75. So if yours are off, that might be. So what you do is you just click on, you click on the part over here. I renamed my parts, by the way. Instead of part 1, I renamed them the color. That'll make the assembly a little easier. So you click that, you click our mass properties. Okay. If I notice this is 1, 2, 3, 4 cubes, right? If I built this by hand, this would be 4 cubes, right? Your actual one that you build by hand, right? Like you could count how many cubes you used. So it's 4 cubes. So I'm going to go in that chart on the 4. My mass should be around 0.05. My volume should be 1.68. And my mass is about 0.5, right? If I round it, and my volume is 1.68. So that means I probably did this correctly. If you get one, and I did this on purpose so I could show you guys. So this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 again. So I should get 0.06 and 2.1. And if I do this and I get, for my mass, nothing. Now my volume is 2.1, so I probably made the part right, but my mass is nothing. If you get that, it's because you forgot to assign your material. So just right click the part, go to assign material, and we are going to type in our oak, and we were choosing oak white. So now that I have that, now if I recheck it, I should have a mass. And my mass is 0.059, which I think I was supposed to have 0.06. So 0.059 would round to 0.06, very close. So that's kind of what we're going to do as the warm-up. Now, the next thing that I need everyone to do is double check on each of these. See how I just have one part, and it's part 1. And if I want to rename these, right-click it, rename it, the color. Like I said, that'll make the assembly a little bit easier. So I have orange. This is one part. This was one part. This was one part. If all of yours are one part, you're ready to move on. But if you have any like me, I have one that was 2 parts. Now, the reason why this is 2 parts is that Onshape basically just sees this very thin line here. If you see this like very thin line, there's from that side, and then, kind of looking at the other side, right, we would like have that line right there. There's basically, in the real world, there's no way that this cube could ever connect to that cube. It's an infinitely thin line. Now, I could glue this together, and I did glue this together. I have it right here, right? But I glued it by kind of gluing this bottom piece to this bottom piece. I don't know why, but Onshape's kind of solver, their system that does this, it wants there to be material between these two. So it basically just says, hey, Onshape's making it 2 parts. They make it one part that's kind of this L shape, and one part that's L shape. Okay, and I don't know why it does that. But what I can try first, and this doesn't always work, is I can try a Boolean. Okay, so I just, in the search tool, type Boolean, and I can click on my 2 parts. And if it gives me a red error, it didn't work. Okay, if you have 3 parts, try it between 2 of them. Maybe you'll get 2 of them to connect. But if you get a red one, just right-click it and delete it or undo it, get rid of it. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to make what's called a sub-assembly. So what I want you to do is, while you're clicked on this, click Insert Assembly, and it should put it right next to the piece. And we're going to right-click this, and we're going to put Rename, and you're going to name it, Assembly, and I'm going to name mine Assembly Red. So this is just, and actually let's name it Sub-Assembly, and I'm going to name it Sub-Assembly. Sub means like an underneath assembly, right? So sub-assembly is going to be kind of like our assembly just for the red piece, okay? Not for all of them, just for the red piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Insert, I'm going to insert the red piece. Now I'll hit the check mark. And because it's thinking the red pieces are 2, I can move this away. So what I want you to kind of do is just rotate to whatever view you want that you can kind of see the best at. I think it's this one. You can kind of see where I would glue it. And just move one of them over just a little bit. Okay? If you want to move it over a little bit more, you can. So I knew these two, like this side, and then I have to rotate, but that side, there's glue there, right? There's glue right here and right here. So I'm going to start with that. Remember, I always need 3 mates. We went over this. We need 3 mates, 1 for each side. So I'm going to start with where I would kind of glue them. So I'm going to go to planar. And remember, don't click it on like one of these corners. Click it in the middle. So I want this side. And then if you want some keyboard shortcuts, by the way, I went over these with period 5, not with period 4. But if you want to add these to the last page of your notebook, you can. So these are some pretty quick, easy keyboard shortcuts. So the Z, if I just click Z once, it'll zoom in for me. And if I hold down Shift and click Z, it'll zoom in. Sorry, zoom in is Shift and Z, and just clicking Z zooms out. Okay, so that's kind of nice. And then the other things that are nice is if you hold down Control and you click and hold the right click, that can pan for you. So you hold down Control, then you click and hold the right key, and you just kind of drag with your finger. That'll pan. If you have a mouse, it's even easier. Because if you have a mouse, you can do it with the wheel, with like this little wheel guy, the scroll wheel. If you click and hold on that guy with a mouse, it'll do the same thing. And same thing for the zoom, you can just scroll that wheel and it'll zoom. So with a mouse, it's a little bit easier. If you have a mouse, I would recommend using it for Onshape. But if you don't, you can hold down Control, click and hold the right key and drag, and that'll pan, kind of moving the screen. And if you just don't hold down Control, if you just click and hold the right key, and this works for a mouse or not a mouse, and you drag, that rotates. So if I click and hold the right key, that rotates. And so I wanted to show that because remember what I was doing is I was kind of doing my glue between this side, and then I can just click and hold the right key to kind of rotate to see this side. And remember, I want to get it in the middle. I don't want to click here. I want to get in the middle. So now that's that one. And I'm going to just right click and go to isometric, right? And maybe I'm going to go actually over here. That's probably a better view. And so I don't want it here, right? And I can see I'm kind of moving them. And so, you know, now what I wanted this piece kind of on the bottom, and it's hard to drag it there. So we just kind of have to remember. So what I'm going to do is I did kind of the right sides, like that side and that side. So I'm going to do the front side. So I'm going to say I wanted these to be flush together. They're going to look on top of each other. Don't worry, just hit check. And now they're flush. But I don't want this up here. I wanted it down below. So again, I can drag it down or up, right? So I could either do the bottoms lined up, or actually I can do these tops lined up. If I look at my piece, this is what I want, right? See how the tops are lined up there? Ooh, and actually I messed up, right? This wasn't flush with the front, so I messed that up. So this is actually good to look at. This wasn't supposed to be flush with the front. This was supposed to be flush with that guy in the back. So what I can do is I can just find this one, and I can just right click it and delete it. Hey, you know what? Actually, I did that wrong. Okay, so let's delete it. So what I actually wanted was I can kind of look here. I wanted this side flush with that side. Right, that's that back with that guy. And now it looks good, but I only have 2. If I only have 2, I'm not done, right? Because if I only have 2, I can always drag one. So the last one I wanted the top with the top. You need to make sure that you get all 3. Okay, so just hit the check. And now this is what I want. Just double check that it looks the same as how you made it. It does. So once it does look the same, you're ready to go. Right? If I drag one of them, they drag together. That's perfect. That's what I want. So now that they drag together and that I have all 3, I'm going to just right click on one of them and fix it. And now it won't drag. So there's my sub-assembly red. So I had to do this because it was 2 parts. So I had to kind of get them to be able to move together as one. Now it's not a part, but it's one sub-assembly. So I have my red sub-assembly. My blue part was just 1. And all of my other guys were 1. If I had another guy that was 2 or 3 or more, I would have to kind of go to that one, click the plus, and do an assembly for that one as well. But I'm ready to go because the rest of mine are all just 1 part. So I'm going to go over here to assembly 1. I'm going to right click it. I'm going to rename it cube, or let's say full cube assembly. Full cube assembly. All right. And so here's our full cube assembly. I'm going to go to insert. And now I'm not going to insert part 1 because remember, this was the one that was 2. So I'm not going to insert this one. I'm going to go over to assemblies. And I'm going to insert subassembly red. I'll just click it. Then I'm going to come back to Part Studio and I'll do all of my other pieces. So I'll do my blue piece, just click anywhere. Do my green piece, doesn't matter, click anywhere. Do my purple piece, kind of click anywhere. I'll do my orange piece. I'm going to zoom out and click anywhere. All right, then I'll just hit the check mark, so I'm done. And I can just kind of drag these away from each other so that they're not kind of overlapping like that. And I want to pick one of these to start off with. Okay, I want to pick one of these to start off with that is going to be my starting view. And so to do that, it might be a good idea to go back to this document, this planning document, and pick one of them. I like to pick one of them in the corner, like maybe this green piece, either bottom corner, maybe this purple piece, but something that can be kind of my starting point that I'm going to just start and reference from everything. So I chose my green piece. So my green piece is kind of in the back, and when I look at the shape drawn here, it looks identical to the shape that I have here. So I'm going to right click my green piece and I'm going to fix that one. Remember, you only fix the first one. I'm not going to fix anything else, just that first one. So I'm going to kind of move everything else a little bit away from the green piece because that's what I'm starting with. And then I'm going to choose another piece. I can move those. I can't move the green piece because I fixed it. So I would choose another piece that is connected to the green piece. So I can either pick the blue piece, the purple piece, even the orange piece. They're all connected to my green piece. I'm going to pick the purple piece. So if I look at my purple piece, it kind of goes up, over, up, and back. And it connects to this green piece at the bottom. So remember, I want 3 mates between the purple piece and the green piece. So the first mate I'm going to choose is that this bottom looks like right about here is glued to the purple piece. Remember, I can right click and then drag. It's glued to right there. That's where I would add glue. So the first one I always do is kind of where I would add glue. I'll hit the check. I'm just going to go back to my isometric view. The second thing is, and so if I, oops, I'm still on this, I'm going to hit the X. So now I can still move it. So the second thing is I would want to move it so it's lined up with the fronts, right? So I did the right sides already. You can't do the right sides already because, you don't want to do this side with this side because I already did a right side, okay? So I want to do that the fronts are flush. They're lined up. Okay? It's going to put them over the top of each other. Don't worry about it. Just hit the check mark. It'll move it over. So now that's good. And then the last one, right, is I want it to be about there. I could do this one of 2 ways. I could actually think, hey, I would glue this in the bottom, or I could go all the way to the bottom. I could say I want to flush the bottoms together, right? The bottoms are lined up. So either one of those is fine. Again, I could say I want to flush the bottom with the bottom, and that works. Or had you not seen that, had you seen, hey, I could put glue in there and there, I could do that one. So if I move that up a little bit, it's easier to see. Or I could kind of put glue in there, and I would glue it to this side down here. Kind of have to get that full so I can get there. But now that adds that in. So either one of those is okay. I'm going to go back to my isometric view. Now see how I have 3 features? If I try to drag the purple piece, it won't drag at all. I can't even drag it, right? It's locked in place. So now I'm going to go back to my design. Just keep doing that. So I did the purple piece. Maybe now I'll do the blue piece. So the blue piece is an L, and it looks like the front of that L gets glued to basically that first cube in the green piece. So I kind of have to rotate a little bit to see that, right? So if I rotate over here, that piece right there is what's gluing to the front of my L. So I'm going to kind of just click on here. I want to glue this side. I'm just going to drag over to the front of that L, and I'll hit my check mark. So now let's drag back to kind of see it. So that looks good, but remember, I can still drag this away. So the next thing is I might want to glue this side to the other side of my L. Let's put in some glue here with this side of the L. And I'll put in my check mark. And so now the last thing that can happen is now this piece is kind of locked in, but it can still move up and down. So where would I want it to stop? I can do anything. I can do when, this side here is lined up with that side there. I could do when the top of the blue is lined up with the top of the purple. I could do when the bottoms are lined up. I like the bottoms just because that stays consistent. So I'm going to line up the bottom of this guy with the bottom of my green. Hit the check mark. And now that's locked into place. I can't move it at all. So now I have 3 pieces done. Okay. My red piece is a little confusing. My orange piece is a little bit easier. So I'm going to probably do my orange piece first so I can save that red piece until the end. So when I look at the orange piece, it kind of is 1, 2, and 3. The 3's at the top, lined up with the purple, and the 1 is at the bottom in between the purple and the green. So I can kind of use that to remember. Okay? So this, you don't want to drag it. You just want to kind of remember. So this orange piece is going to go there. So I'm actually going to do flush first. So I'm going to say, hey, I want this side. Actually, no, let's do the gluing first. I like the gluing first because usually that's what they expect. So let's do that. So I would glue this bottom side here, that orange. I would kind of add glue to the purple side. So we'd kind of glue that in. So now if I go back to isometric, right, if you always do the gluing one first, Onshape kind of likes that. So I glued the side, right? I glued this side with there. So I could also glue kind of until this side hits the other side. So let's do that. So let's add glue kind of between that side and between that side. So I want those to get lined up. It moved the purple piece, don't worry, it'll move back. And so now that I have that, I'm going to go to isometric so it's easier to see this. I can still move this up and down. I can still move this up and down. So I said the bottoms are consistent, but now that I'm starting to get a top, that would be consistent too. But don't just move it there. If you move it here and you fix it, I'm going to mark you wrong. I only have 8. I need 9. I want 1 for each of them, right? I've done, now 3 cubes besides the first one. So I'm going to go here, the top, flush with, kind of find the top of the purple, that, and just check mark it. So now we're good. So notice I have 4 cubes, but I've added 3 to my original, which is why I have 9 of these. You should end up with 12 when you're done. I'm going to go back to isometric, and my last piece is this red piece. Now, one hard thing about my red piece that you might have on some of yours, I didn't really deal with this yet, is my red piece is not quite built in the same orientation. Right? If I click this, though, you can actually drag it just to see it better until you kind of get it how you think it should look. So my piece kind of would fit in this way, I believe. Right? So if I kind of look there, it fits in that way. It's kind of hard to see. And I couldn't actually really drag it in here. If I'm building this cube and I connected everything here, I couldn't get the red piece in. So I would have to actually put the red piece in before I could put some of my other pieces in, which is what makes my cube hard to solve. So anyways, now let's kind of add this in. If I was gluing, there are a lot of ways I could do it, but I could glue this backside with this orange piece, or I could glue kind of this front side with this purple piece. I'm going to probably do that. So I'm going to add glue on this front piece with this purple piece. So I'm going to hit the check mark. Now look, it only moved one of them, but they'll move together because they're an assembly. So now from there, I can do the front with the front, right? And that would be a flush. The check mark. Now it can move up and down. So I want to do the top with the top. And now I hit the check mark. I have 12 of these. My cube is now totally locked. If I try to drag on any color piece, it will not move. None of the pieces will move. Okay. Remember which one I did first? I did the right one first. If I do unfix it, by the way, just so you can see, if I drag on any piece, they all move together. So that's kind of cool too. But I like to have that first piece fixed. It keeps everything nice and consistent. And it keeps your isometric view looking nice. If you don't fix that first piece, your isometric view, the cube will start to kind of be jumbled and it won't look as nice as it does here. So this is our finished product. To check everything, remember you need to have 12 of these. And when you're doing them, remember it's always 1, this would be the front side, either the front or the back. Then 1 for either the right or the left. And then 1 for either the top or the bottom. And so it's 3 mates. And we're going to just use planer mate the whole time today. So you're just going to do 3 mates for every single part. And then this should be our finished product. So I'm going to give you guys all of today to work on that. And then tomorrow, if you have it finished, you'll have a very easy day. And if you have questions and you need help, then tomorrow I will help us out.